Wondering how your mindset affects your life? How to bring more energy into your business and life? Millions of people around the world ask these same questions daily. You are in the right place. Learn practices that will help give your life the meaning and success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Charge Podcast, teaching you how to create habits around real goals every day. Practical life advice from those who made it. Here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Chargers, I can't thank you enough for joining us each and every week with a great podcast. This review of all the podcasts we've had so far in the first quarter of 2020 really can help your business, and it may be able to help somebody else. So please share it with them. I want you to know during this very uncertain time that we're in right now in the world, I want to be that person to how you can create that positive culture in yourself. You know my charge mechanism is create habits around real goals every day. Well, today it's really about how can we help others. And I want to share with you a free resource and no opt-in required of 10 ways to be positive in these uncertain times. Now, you'll most likely have to go to chargepodcast.com to get the bit.ly link because it's a little bit confusing, but it's bit.ly/Gary Wilbers with the G and W capitalized hyphen 10 ways positive. And what I'm going to share with you is I did a webinar last week, and I want to share this with audiences on ways they can be more positive. And it's complimentary, no opt-in required, but 10 practices you can start to do to stay positive and help others during this uncertain time. Please share with anyone who you think could benefit from this webinar. And if you go to our page, chargepodcast.com, Chris will have easily where you can click on the link and access the webinar. And I know there's some great information that we would love to share with you. Now, here's a recap of our first 12 issues, our episodes that we've had in 2020. And if you haven't listened to all of them, check out this recap issue and then check them out. And please like and share our podcast with others. Thanks for joining me. Chargers, you've got to check out our first episode of 2020 was Dream Building with Anna Marie DiGiorgio. I tell you, you need to check out this podcast. There's so many great information she gave us about how to set those dreams, which really becomes goals. So listen to this clip from Anna Marie and then check out her podcast. You're going to love it.
The first principle we have is designing your dream. If you don't have a complete design of what that looks like, you don't know where you're going. So, for example, when you want to build a home, you have to have a blueprint of what that looks like. You want to know where the windows and the doors and the bedrooms, of course, the electricity and the water. We need to make sure that when we have a dream or a goal, that we design that blueprint so we know exactly where we're going. You can ask yourself a couple of questions. What do you want? What do you really, really want and love for your life? Whether that be in health and wellness, or if that's time or money, or love, relationships, or how about your vocation? If you take those 4 areas and pick, what do I really want? Simple. Is it money? Is it lose weight? Is it time freedom? What does that really look like? Find those particulars in those 4 areas and build around those. Start small, dream big.
I love this podcast with Laura Albers because she talked about mind and body wellness. And I tell you, we all can use that each and every day. So I want you to check out this podcast because she really helps with people freeing their precious time and their energy so they can run their businesses with confidence. And of course, running your family life like a business sometimes. So really, it's about transforming that self-care on the things you should be doing. You've got to check out this clip by Laura Albers and then listen to her full podcast here.
That might free up kind of some time and all of that. Yeah. So I think one of the things too is learning to say no. And so that's a big one, I think, for a lot of us. And I like to think in terms of steps. So I have kind of 2 steps or 2 questions that I often encourage people to ask themselves when they are when they get a request, because our instinct is to give often this automatic reflexive yes. We want to first of all get in the habit of getting out of that. And one way you can do that, first of all, is ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do I want to do this? You know, if it's like a 1 to 3, probably the answer is no. Like, you'd rather probably at that point have a root canal. It's like, I don't want to do this, or I don't have the time or the energy or the skill set to do this. So you know it's a no, so you can say no sort of on the spot. If it's a 9 or a 10, that's probably something you really want to do, and so you can sort of say yes on the spot. It's that 4 to 8 range that I think a lot of times we sort of struggle with, and that's when you can really get clear of, like, is this, going back to what we were talking about a second ago with the highest priorities, values, and goals, like, is this request, does that fall into those highest priorities, values, and goals?
We just started off 2020 with a bang. And I'm telling you, on episode 105 by Jennifer Eggers, you really have got to check this out. Because, of course, with some of the challenges we've had recently, this is so practical because she helps us realize and understand there are some things that we can do to build resilience before disruption hits. Of course, disruption has hit now, but what can we do individually and organizationally to really move forward in this uncertain time? So check out episode 105, listen to this clip, and then you're going to love this podcast.
Yeah, that's the most fun part for me, because when you ask people what is resilience, I mean, almost 8 out of 10 will say it's about bouncing back. But at the end of the day, and I love this quote from Carla Trotman, who's an entrepreneur and just phenomenally successful executive I know, but she says that by the time if you try to bounce back, by the time you bounce back, everything's changed. Your business environment's changed, your market's changed, etc. So when we look at large corporate transformation, or whether you're looking at, your own life and your divorce or your, health crisis or whatever situation you're in, if you try to go back, there's no back to bounce to. So resilience is all about moving forward and getting through disruption, elevated by it, so that you come out stronger and more effective. And we do that with preparation. And that's what the book is about. It's about how do you prepare.
Episode 106 was all about pumping the iron with Nick Baker. He was talking about how we can really create a healthy mindset to become a healthy version of yourself. What are you doing in the area of exercise? It's getting ready to be second quarter of 2020. Now is the time to take action and start putting an exercise program in place. And Nick gives some great practical tips. So listen to this clip and then check out episode 106.
Well, most importantly, I really encourage that strong why. So that's step one. You have to really identify why, share it with your family, share it with your friends, share it with your mentor so that they know that you're serious. And
write it down.
Write it down. You want to read it before you go to bed, read it until you wake up, because you want that to be a part of your statement for 2020. You have to. If you don't, you're just waiting for that the feel good, and then I want to do things. Step two is going to be, you got to write your goals down. You got to write realistic goals that are smart, measurable, attainable, realistic, time sensitive. That's super important. And then you have to take action with a little bit of accountability. And that's your 3 steps. Why? What am I going to do? And the action that's going to follow. Because if you don't do that action step, it looks good on paper, but until you get it written down and check that off, it doesn't make progress.
Chargers, for small business owners, this is critical. For individual families, this is critical about really how you can help master your financial aspects of your business. So check out episode 107, where Craig Tobias gives some great information on what you can do to really master the roadmap of mastering your money. You need to check out this podcast, and I know you're going to really enjoy it. So listen to this clip and then go to episode 107 and check it out.
Well, first and foremost, not dealing with it. The sort of the worst that you can do is sort of bury your head in the sand and kind of not track things and not have your business financials in good shape, because you're going to have to fix them at some point, if only to get your taxes right. And it's very time consuming and expensive to have someone clean up the past rather than to managing things as you're going along. Secondly, for most people, it's a mistake to try to do it yourself. And that isn't necessarily because you're incapable, but you don't have the time. It's not the right use of your time if you're a business owner. There are higher value things for you to do than to track the finances.
Now, you've got to check out episode 108 by Maurice DeVillers. You're going to love her podcast because she has a passion in helping people and helping them grow and become successful and happy. She really helps you really talk about dealing with the bully can be a slippery slope. This may help one of your family members. It may help yourself, but there's lots of practical information that she gives that really comes from her book that she recently published. So go and check out episode 108 after you listen to this clip.
Absolutely. So the Workplace Bullying Institute, which is based in the States, define it as the repeated health-harming mistreatment of one or more persons, so the targets, by one or more perpetrators. So it's abusive conduct, right? It's either threatening, humiliating, or intimidating. It's work sabotage, so work interference, which prevents people from getting the job done. And it's also just plain verbal abuse. So really it is about, it is constant, repeated, health-harming mistreatment. And I think that's what we need to remember. It's not necessarily physical. You can't necessarily see someone physically hurting someone, but it is actually the mental and mental impact of the bullying over time. So in my case was 4 years, really led to me kind of get to a point where I was absolutely at rock bottom, where mentally and physically I was kind of falling apart. So it's more the mental abuse than the physical abuse I'm after here.
What a time in our life that we've got to put a more joyful mindset, and the power how we can create that change by small actions, by enjoying the power of laughter and jokes and really just understanding what comedy can do for us. It is in episode 109. Dave Caperton shares with us some real secrets on how you can help your stress by increasing your happiness and enjoying a little more comedy in your life each and every day. So listen to this clip and then check out Dave's full podcast at episode 109.
Right. Well, and one other thing I just wanted to mention, because you do talk to a lot of folks in leadership, and that is humor has a direction that if you are, you can aim it upwards at power. Power must never aim it down at the followship. It cannot aim it down at those who have less power, because one way is a way of kind of keeping power in check, right? But when you use it the other way, then that's bullying. Yeah. And I think sometimes people kind of forget that. They get into a position of power and they think they're joking, and they're really creating victims. Just take a look. Does my humor require a victim? And if that's true, rethink that.
Now, you've got to check out episode 110 by Manny Wyatt, because he's a business coach and really talks about 4 things to really implement into your business. It's awareness, education, implementation, and discipline. Now, check out this podcast, because I know there's some practical steps that you can really take to transform your business to achieve incredible results. Episode 110. Listen now.
But there are 4 other constituents that we have to be conscious of. So we've got the stakeholder, that's number 1. Number 2, we've got to take care of the customer. The customer is a constituent to the business. The third one is the team. The team, when we satisfy the team, they will satisfy the customer. Now, the last 2 are often forgotten. The next one I want to talk about is our community. We need to be satisfying our community, and we do that by volunteering, being a part of organizations, adding more jobs. That helps satisfy the growth of our communities. Paying our taxes, that satisfies our communities as well. The 5th constituent is the company itself. Again, kind of that connection to the sustainability is everybody in this business should be working towards doing things that are going to make this business outlast us, because this business is a constituent. And I don't want to just make money for today and then the business disappears. That's not sustainable. I'm building a business that long after I'm gone, it will be here. So this business is a constituent by itself.
Now, in episode 111, Liz Kilzuk used her 30 years of experience to share with us how you create highly productive cultures and really to get highly productive teams. This is one of those things now that we've gone through this challenging time is what can we do to change, to really make our team feel like an organizational culture is so important, and how do you drive that home each and every day? So you're going to love this podcast. Listen to this little clip and then check out episode 111.
For me, I think they've mostly been habits of mind as opposed to habits of behavior. And I think the first one I've had since I was a very young child, and it's curiosity. I want to know. I want to know everything. I want to know why. I want to know who. I want to know how. And that gets you revved up and ready to go, because who knows what you're going to learn today. So that's the first one. And the second one that also I've had since I was very young is a habit of cheerfulness. Because the day just goes better if you feel positively and are upbeat and have a kind of, I don't know if I'd call it happy, but positive, cheerful energy about you makes things go better with other people, not just with yourself. Yeah. And the third habit that I practice all the time really did not come to me until I was probably in my 30s. And that's a habit of compassion, about consciously looking for ways not only to be helpful to other people, but to think the best of them, to look for the good in others all the time, because that too makes you feel more positively about everything that happens.
Episode 112 by Ron Carusi is another great podcast, really talking about some of the challenges today that we've got to really look at. He had a 15-year study on organizational honesty that he shares with us and what he found out and why it's so important for leaders to be honest not only with themselves, but about themselves and with others. And during this time, that is crucial for this transformational change that we're seeing in the business world today. So check out this clip and then check out the full podcast at number 112.
People don't want to talk about honesty. And the thing that we forget on the other side of that coin is everybody wants to talk about purpose, right? Everybody's talking about wanting to find meaning in their work and find a reason to be and get in touch with your unique calling in the world. And that's all well and good, but you can't do that if you're not being honest. And everybody is doing what I call purpose washing. It's a way organizations are trying to make themselves sound good because they're doing community work or sustainability work or being good environmental stewards. But the reality is, if you want everybody in your workplace on fire, sold out for the direction you want to take, they've got to believe that the reason they are on this planet is attached to what you're doing. And if you are creating conditions under which they cannot tell the truth, they will not feel purpose-driven. They will feel duplicitous, and they'll feel like they have to hide.
Do you have any high schoolers at home? Well, if you do, you should definitely check out episode 113. Larry Stevenson was my guest, and he talks about so many different ways that you can get free money for college. Yes, and enjoy $100,000 in scholarships at any age. He shares some great resources with us. So if you have children that are getting ready to go to college or even in middle school, I would tell you, check out this podcast 113 because there's some practical application that you can start using to get your children some scholarships that will really help you pay for those college expenses. That's episode 113. Check out this clip and then check out the full podcast.
The first thing that we have to work with is too many people don't believe they deserve the scholarship. They've been taught their whole life to be humble, don't brag, don't be conceited, and they're used to either dealing with generalities or understating what they've done. So first we have to get them to recognize they deserve the money. Second, we have them prepare what we call scholarship statements. There are 36 of them that they copy and paste. We build them around 4 themes. Everyone has at least 4 themes in their life. It could be academics, could be athletics, creative talent, leadership, survivors. You identify those 4 things that really apply to you. Then you find 3 situations or courses for each one, and then you come up with 3 specific examples of your achievements for each situation.
Now, you want to check out episode 114. It was our final podcast of the first quarter, but Jeff really shares some interesting information about building generational gaps in workplace environments. We have to realize those generational differences, and when we make teams, understanding those differences, we build more cohesive teams. And Jeff shares some great tips that he uses with his groups to really make them a more highly productive team. So check out this clip and listen to podcast 114.
So communication can branch on a lot of different sides of things. So there's those sides. I would also look at the cultural differences and the side of understanding that when groups first meet, so let's say you have different generations in the workplace. Chances are they're not going to be able to get along if they're in the same hierarchy, or actually different levels of the hierarchy, because you have power games in there. And this goes into all four conditions of when in intergroup contact theory and sociology, when do different groups first meet, how do they get together cohesively and work along side by side? And there's 4 conditions for that. There's the equal status, working towards a common goal. 3 is cooperatively. And the 4th, that there's institutional support. As a leader, if you're going to work with different generations, you need to realize, like, look, we're not in an equal status environment. How can we equalize this? And what a lot of companies have done is going outside of the workplace, maybe doing some sort of volunteering time off to get people in that out of the workplace context to start breaking down those generational differences.
Chargers, it's hard to believe the first quarter of 2020 is ended. And I tell you, it's been quite the quarter here for us at the Charge Podcast. So please go back and check out some of those podcasts that you just heard about, because I know there's some practical information that you can get that will help your business, help your individual life, and help someone else. I want to just thank you, because as of today, we are in 49 states. We only have one left in the state of Vermont. So if you know someone, call them and give them the link to the Charge Podcast. And next time I come on, I'll be able to say we have all 50 states in the United States. We're in over 60 countries now, and we're continue to grow the podcast. And that's because of you. So thank you, Chargers, for allowing us to continue to grow. I would still appreciate if you would like and share our podcast, whatever platform you're on, and let others know about our podcast, because that is how it keeps growing. So remember, reach out to me. If I can help you with something, please let us know. We would love to be able to help you. If you go to chargepodcast.com, you'll see all the information how you can reach out to me. Thanks for joining me each and every week, and come back next week for a brand new guest and a brand new session of podcasts that we're going to share with you over this second quarter. Thanks for joining me. Make it a great day.
This podcast is ended, but your life doesn't just stop. To continue your inspiring journey, head over to chargepodcast.com and access all the tools and resources mentioned on today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing with somebody who may also benefit from the advice provided. That's chargepodcast.com. Until next time, charge in business and life.